there is a cookie cutter plan for you when you are born into this world. And I'm saying it's time to look at the world different. It's this idea of money. It's a red herring. Please be careful.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Author Speak. So I have here with me Raju Panjwani, and Raju's just published an amazing book called Bold Conscious Leadership, and he'll tell us a little more about it in this book. Raju has had a varied career, and I'm not going to say too much, but I'm going to let Raju tell you what his background is, where he comes from, why he wrote the book, and why he wants you to read it, and who should read this book. So welcome, Raju. And
thank you for having me, Shoma. It's been a great time working with you.
Lovely to be with you. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do.
Well, I'm such an old man, I could take forever to describe who I am and what I've been doing. But the way I describe myself these days is I'm a spiritual being in this human body temporarily and here to serve people. That's who we all are. But to answer your question, I was born in India. I grew up there, and I'm a chartered accountant. Been in the US 43 years as an immigrant when I came here 43 years ago with $8 in my pocket and just a lot of education with no job. So that's how I began my life in the US. And it's just been an amazing journey to be here. So I, apart from being a CA, chartered accountant, and then a CPA in the US, I spent the first part of my career in what they call public accounting, auditing, risk. And then that's how, from Price Waterhouse, which is where I used to work, I was found by Morgan Stanley to come and run their risk division. So I was the global head of risk at a sort of young age of 30-ish, when they had just gone public in 1987. So I began my career at Morgan Stanley and on Wall Street, literally a week before the crash that occurred in 1987, October 19th. So I started on October 12th. Today is my anniversary of starting that job in 1987. Wow. So, and it's an auspicious day because it's also my mom and dad's wedding anniversary. So very special, October 12th. So thanks for choosing this date. So since then, and so I worked there for about 18 years in different positions, and I ran different divisions in a leadership role. And then, given certain events, I actually quit my job in 2005. So after 18 years, and now 17 years ago, left Morgan Stanley to start my own journey of my entrepreneurship. And I've had 5 startups, and I'm on my 6th right now.
That's amazing. And tell us a little bit about these, your journey from that. Why did you leave Morgan Stanley? Why did you go into entrepreneurship, and what you got out of that?
Well, it's interesting. That could take a whole session, but the point is that I think I lived a life where I was stifled most of my life, could not pursue my own dreams, or let's put it this way, I don't think I connected with myself to be bold enough to stand up to the authorities, my dad, teachers, and others who basically thought that I should do something, whereas I wanted to do something else. So as a child, always wanted to do something with writing because I was always fascinated with writing. I used to do things all the time. I wrote well. I was always at the top of the class. But somehow I got into a career that wasn't really my choosing, and which is why I'm a great example of living somebody else's guidance, somebody else's dreams, and not my own. So I had this burning desire always to be something on my own, and I didn't know what it was. And as you probably know, that when you get to your mid-30s, about 80 to 90% of your personality is already formed. And what are you going to do after that? So if you ever have an epiphany that you want to do something else in life, it's going to take a long time because you're unwinding all your programming of many, many years, right? And it depends on when you have this breakthrough in your mind that you're going to do something different. So for me, it wasn't until my father died, so I felt like a weight lift off like somebody was always pressuring me to do something, that led me to say I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But before that, the actual reason that I quit Morgan Stanley or quit the firm was because we were swept away in the tsunami. My family and I, we were vacationing in Sri Lanka, and almost never came back. Perished. We drowned. We were injured. We were found by other people, and it was the catalyst to say, okay, this is it. Life is too short, and that was my third encounter with death. And I've had 3 more since then. I'll talk about that right now. But so it was immediately that I came back, we survived. And I decided the very next week that I wasn't going to be working anymore, and my wheels started turning to go, what's the business I'm going to launch? If I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? Because tomorrow is too late.
That's amazing. And I know that when readers get your book, they'll get a little snapshot, but a very crucial part of your life that you went through with the tsunami that you were talking about is in the book. And yes. I think it's an amazing incident to have happened to you in a way that it was traumatic, but also you got something good out of it as well. And there are so many people in today's world who are, like you said, mid-30s, they've been at their career, they're fed up of the rat race, they're just living other people's dream, and they don't know how to get out of this trap. Mm-hmm. And I think, in a way, it's not just about, I'll become an entrepreneur, or I'll start my own business, or I'll just, I'll quit this. And we see the great resignation happening everywhere, people doing their own startup. But what's important to me is it's the book that you've written and that we've edited is it tells you, allows you to think before you take that sudden step. There's a lot of conscious thought that goes in here. And as we were doing the book, when I was working with you, I told you that each of these chapters can be an individual book by itself. This yes. is a condensed version of all the thoughts that you've put in. It's a very deep book. Superficially, yes, you can read it. Probably, it's a couple of 100 pages, so it doesn't take time. In a few days, you can read it. But once you start thinking about it and thinking of all the things that you've put in there, I think anyone who's contemplating leaving their 9-to-5 job to start something that their heart desires, whether it's entrepreneurship or whether it's following some hobby or whatever it is, should mm-hmm. really read this book and think about it before they do that, and probably consult with you, and because you've got way more insight into this than what's in the book.
Well, the book is based on what began was with our coaching program, because we do one-to-many sessions with clients, and it's coaching, so it's not like you really know what's coming, because everybody has their own different challenges and experiences, and you're trying to highlight or facilitate breakthroughs, right, in the coaching programs. So when I began spending really a lot of time editing the book, before even I met you, I realized that this needed a lot of work, because there was a lot of information in here packed into, it's like too many things, right? These are the tenets of personal leadership. Ultimately, this book is about personal leadership, how to feel free in a restricted world. And everywhere the headline is redefining success on your terms. And redefining success, every single chapter is about redefining success, based on this, redefining success based on that, those 11 tenets. And it is really, so in a book, sort of in a couple of 100 pages, it's cramped with stuff, right? And this is not to say that we encourage everyone that's in a job to leave, go become an entrepreneur. Not at all. We're simply saying that don't fail to tap into your deep understanding of who you are, your, not expertise, we're not talking about skill sets, but where you are in your heart, because everything that we do in the world based on the program that we came into, men, people, moms, dads told us what to do, teachers told us what to do, and we follow that path. And I'm one of those guys that did that. There's nothing to regret. It's just that we were fed whatever we were fed based on the program. So when you're starting to relook at things from fulfillment perspective, or what is success perspective, it's going to be different for each person. So each one has that indication that comes from the heart. Emotions are the language of the heart, and thoughts are the language of the brain. Unfortunately, our lives have been thoughts, doing the work, thoughts, action, but we don't lead with understanding of where our emotions are telling us that we're not happy, that we're not satisfied, or you work very hard and that's your success, because working hard is important. Nothing wrong with working hard, but ultimately everyone can work hard 20 hours a day and be dissatisfied and make no money. So it doesn't matter the hard work. It's about being consistent with what you believe deep down in your heart. So that's what this book is really about. So it's for the ideal reader for this is that someone who is, getting in the 30s, 40s, and will become an empty nester, will lose a parent soon, or that's just the cycle of life, right? When that happens, who wants to lose their mother or father? Nobody. But that is going to happen, right? If it's the general cycle of life. Forget about tragedies that happen to other people. But we all don't want to learn from people's tragedies, because you only learn when it happens to you. So it's great to say, oh, that one died early because they had a heart attack and they were unhealthy. No, someone close to you dies, or something happens off the general path. Then you go, what happened? So this book is for those who are getting to that point in life where they're going to feel wobbly because they're going to become an empty nester. They're going to have a change in relationship with their spouses, because it was one thing when you've got the car, the house, and everything else, and then your relationship is starting to morph, and now there'll be no kids at home. Oh my God, what is going to be happening with, between her and me and her? And that's a real deal. So that's the ideal client of ours, but that's also kind of the reader. But this book can be read by a 25-year-old person too. So, and hopefully they catch this wisdom early in their age, so they can make something out of their lives. That's deep down
exactly
here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, that while you're saying yes, it is for people a little bit older, but I think, catch them young and let those people read the book so that they don't make the mistakes that read it, and they're aware of what's in store. And yeah.
And books are a great way to do that. So books can be general. I imagine this, Shoma, that this book's sitting at the airport. People are going through, browsing their books, and, a 24-year-old kid like my son or others pick up that book and go, how to feel free. And then you look at, how do I redefine success on my terms, starting at my age now, because I don't want my dad to tell me what to do in life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't want to live somebody else's life, because somebody started a company and now I have to work on their dreams rather than work on mine. I mean, it's good to have experience. It's good to have exposure on how the world works. But, if everybody went to Harvard and Yale and all these different universities and they all came out the same way, I mean, but they all go off in different directions. So what does that tell you? There is no cookie cutter. There is a cookie cutter plan for you when you are born into this world. And I'm saying it's time to look at the world differently.
Absolutely. Time to look at the world, and time to think. People don't think, people follow. So the whole, we have that herd mentality, do whatever everyone else is doing, but we don't sit down and think for ourselves. And I think this is what the book does. But tell me about your writing.
Money is not the success marker, right? So it's this idea of money. It's a red herring. Please be careful.
Absolutely. You've always been a writer. You said you enjoy writing. So tell us a little bit about the writing process, because a lot of our viewers want to write a book, but they're scared because, writing seems to them like a behemoth task. It's a huge investment of time, resources, effort. And at the end of it, monetary compensation doesn't come from selling the books because you're selling them for $5 and $10. But what does happen is, yes, whatever you can create impact, you can grow your business. It's a leverage that you get out of the book. I know very few books will become bestsellers, but again, bestselling is a strategy. To me, a bestseller is a book that can be read over and over again. And trust me, and I'm saying this to our viewers and readers, this is a book that needs to be read over and over again, because you're not going to get the meaning in that first read. The first read is just going to be, it's on the surface, high level, but then as you reread the chapters one at a time, it starts sinking in. Because that's what happened to me as I edited over and over and over again. And everything started to really sink in, and how deep this book was. So Raju, my next question is, tell me about your writing process and how do you get your thoughts on paper? Do you write with a plan, or is it just,
I'm laughing because I've been through this for like 15 years trying to write my memoir, particularly after the tsunami, which was 18 years ago, right? So it's like, I want to write this, and I love to write, and I write well. The problem is writing isn't about, the book. Writing is about writing. So the biggest impact that happened to me 10 years ago about this idea of writing, as I said, I always wrote. I was fascinated with writing. I wrote really well. I won all the prizes for writing. However, school and college writing is flowery, right? It's very literary. It's not really the modern day attention grabbing writing. It sounds like Shakespeare. It sounds like, oh, come on, what are you talking about? Great big words that nobody understands. So when I came to the US and I was in the business I was in, auditing and things like that, you had to write memos, you had to write, summaries of things, but it had to be quick because the boss needed just to read the bottom line. And for me, there was no bottom line. I was a storyteller. So it's like, can you just stop with this? And I got so good at morphing into a business writing that my business writing became really good. So if I was to write a memo or something to capture a meeting, it would be such that you were almost there and you didn't have to read a lot. And I would bring you into that moment. This meeting lasted 1 hour, and I would still give you the high points, but you will know as if you were there. So that became an art that you keep writing. But that was very different. I know it has held me in good stead, but when it came to writing, since I was 5 years old, I wanted to be an author, like published. I had no clue what that meant, right? So for me, writing these things that I wrote, the articles, that this was all kind of like I was writing a book. But when it came to actually the book, it was about the book. It was about the movie that's going to be made about it. And there was nothing meaningful to write about. Like, I was not that experienced in life. And I was like, who's going to read my stuff, right? So 10 years ago, and by that time I was 55 years old. And I'd written a lot, but nothing published. So John Maxwell, who's a leadership guru and written 75, 80 books on leadership. So somebody asked him the question you just asked me. So what's your process? He goes, hey, writing is not one of those things you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to write this book. There's no such thing. I take out a yellow pad. I like to write in pen. I block myself 2 hours. That's the first thing I do in the morning. I just write. 2 hours go by and I stop. That's how you write a book. But John, that doesn't make any sense. No, that's it. You pick up a pen and you write. That's all it is, but you have to do it every day. It's not like you're going to, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to start working out, but I'm going to go work out today and I'll feel great and metabolism will kick in. I'll lose weight. No, you have to do something every day. So that hit me hard. And fast forward, I think I told you about my writing coach. I was an intensive that I was at 3 years ago, and she gave us prompts. Like, she would turn on a timer for 10 minutes, give us a prompt, and you start writing. And I think that started the process. But what was very hard for me still was, what is the book I'm writing about, right? The memoir, the this, my stories. We all have stories, and we think our stories are going to change the world or share with the world. That's true. But ultimately, you're writing for somebody to read and get something out of, right? It's either it's entertaining, it's a novel or a fiction. In the nonfiction world, you have something to convey that people can take away from. Like, we all read books that help you, self-help, personal growth, whatever it may be. But you got to make it meaningful. So when the shift happened that it's either to get the message out to build your business, which therefore helps the readers to get something out of something, I switched gears. I stopped writing my memoir, and I realized 2 years ago that we already have this thing. That's our business. That's what we do. Let's make this the basis for our teachings and learnings, using our experiences, using our stories, and using our examples as much as we can. So that's how this came out, and it became the first step. So the process of writing is just nothing but writing. And so the next book, I know you were going to ask me a question about my next book. Yeah, so that's the one that stuck for the last 5 years, and now it's going to, be finished as a manuscript by December 30th. That's my declaration to myself, and it's not going to be written overnight. So you're going to keep writing something, and then you will help me edit it, and you'll figure out the spine in the book, and you'll figure out the story. I mean, that's what the editors are for. And I think I have just learned that I always knew this, but the editor is the heart and soul of the book, right? With the writer. So sorry, I'm just a long-winded answer to your question. The process of writing is just write, and don't worry about what it looks like. You're not writing the end. Just write. Just write. Yeah. And put it together at the end. Let the editor help you develop it or structure it. All the 5-6 types of editing that you need to do in process. It cannot be done overnight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing happens overnight. And different people work in different ways. Some people like to structure, some people like to write from the heart and then look at the structure. And there's no right or wrong. Both ways work.
But a structural edit is important, right? Or a developmental editor who can see from a reader's perspective, because you're writing for the reader. So stop writing for yourself, write for the reader. But that's something that the editor can help you do. I mean, you can still write, because when you write from the heart, you don't know who's reading this. It's like when you cook your food from the heart, you don't know who's going to eat it. I mean, you have an idea, but whether they're going to like it. So
yeah, absolutely. Process. I mean, yeah, a book, it's the same for me. The book is always for the reader. The reader has to get something out of your book. But right. When it's written from the heart, when you've put, you bleed yourself onto the page, really. Yes. That's when it speaks to the audience. And of course, yes, your editor is critical, because an editor has been editing books forever, and they can see from a distance, especially a developmental editor looks at your manuscript from a 30,000 feet view and looks at it as a whole. Whereas I'm an author and an editor, both. So I write a lot and I edit. And when I'm writing, I'm so involved in the process. Even I need an external editor to look at my work and tell me what's, where are the gaps, what am I missing, where have I gone on and on. So that's really critical. My next question is, with any writing, and I've faced it so many times, we face hurdles. The blank page is, of course, always there. But what are can you talk to me about the hurdles you faced when you were writing, or finding an editor, or, whatever publishing hurdles that, because people want to know, like, what are the processes involved? Where am I going to get stuck? How do I overcome those?
Well, the big headline in this book is you focus on the why and the what, and you don't focus on the how. Let the how take care of itself. Most of us don't start because we worry about all the hardships that are going to come, or how am I going to overcome? Well, you haven't begun the process, so there's nothing to overcome yet. But is there anything in life without hurdles? No, there will be hurdles for sure. we had some really strange ones. You know about the specific story about this, that we had an editor that we paid and he disappeared. So, so that's just a specific hurdle to us. That doesn't mean it's a hurdle. There could be something else that comes up. You get sick in the process. I got COVID in the process. I was stuck for 3 months without any input into the book, without the editor, me trying to do all this stuff. And it was just, but those are specific and unique to you. But if you're talking about in the publishing process, I mean, there's always going to be stuff you don't know, particularly in the self-publishing business, right? As we're figuring out distributions and formats and uploads and, the stuff we're going through with a couple of the sites still. It's not the end of the world, but there is enough maturity now in the back-end self-publishing of, some of the major players out there. They do make it easy for you. So it's like, don't worry about the how too much. Just get the book done, and then try to finish the book, work with an editor, because that is the process. There's no other magic to this, right? The book just doesn't appear magically on your desk tomorrow. You've got to work through the process. So the hurdles here are your own disciplines, I think, primarily, because if we don't apply block time to really consistently do something, like anything in life, then you just, you're creating another hurdle for yourself, because then the next step has to be, you have to move it forward somewhere, right? And if it has to go to the editor, there's going to be a process that editor is going to take. It's going to come back to you, and then you're going to work on it again. And you can get frustrated, or you can just simply know that is the hurdles are the path, like everything else in life.
Yeah. And so important you said that, because, everywhere I see advertisements of write your book in 48 hours and get your book out in over a weekend. And while, yes, you can probably do short ones, like Amazon is now pushing shorts, like YouTube shorts. So you write 20-page, 40-page books. But something as substantial as this book, your book, or any other book, really, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, which really goes in depth, takes time. There are no shortcuts to that. And our readers need to know that, our viewers need to know that as well, that if you're coming in to write a good book, something that you want people to read, for people to get something out of, then you have to invest the time. And you're so right, there are hurdles, there will always be hurdles. We are doing this day in and day out. Amazon keeps changing their rules, especially in the world of self-publishing.
Yes.
And traditional publishers face it too. There's the marketing aspect, there's the publishing aspect, there's, there will be hurdles, but you just take it one day at a time. And the best...
I mean, I could do a whole course right now on the publishing aspects, right?
Yeah. And the best
sure.
advice I can give is probably read this book before you start, because that'll help, sink it all in and have that mental stability and stamina to keep going through all these hurdles. But there are people,
and there's no, and don't make perfection the goal, because this book is not perfect, right? There's still stuff that you look back and say, oh, I wish I could do this. And in the self-publishing world, you just want to, take all the feedback and then maybe do another edition, with whatever you want to change. But perfection is the enemy of progress, right? If you just don't get something out there, that's excellent. It should be pursuing excellence. You should not put garbage out there, for sure. Otherwise, what's the point? But whatever you'd be proud of. So I'm proud of this book. It's out there. It's in a good place. Everything can always be improved. So I'm not going to beat myself up for that. So it's all right.
Absolutely. And as we come to winding down this interview, tell us a little bit about how you found us, or how you found me, and what was your experience with us? So
sometimes it's like it's not a shortcut, right? So we were part of this mastermind, the community. That's how we first connected in the community. And frankly, the fact that you were in Australia, and then I just had my own preconceived notions about whether you would get what we're doing here, what we're writing about. I didn't know. And we took another, road to doing this. And then that was one experience, and we had another one where we were also ghosted by another person. So whatever the reasons being, then I felt like I better just start asking you, talk to you. Like, okay, well, you were in this mastermind with me. Oh, okay. Can you help? And then yes, there were times that you thought that, I was a little impatient because I just want to get it done. But I had been through such a process already that like, oh, okay, we got to get this book out there somehow. So that's how I found you, because you're already in the orbit, and I just did not reach out to you until I was frustrated, to be honest, with the whole process of finding an editor, and I knew that we needed an editor. So I'm sorry that I came a little late, but I was happy that I did.
Happens, in its own time, at its own pace. There's a reason for everything. But yeah, you
And then I had such an
know.
opposite. Sorry, I started with like, okay, she may not understand what we do here, and then towards the end, before I called you, I like now have an inkling that she might get me, because you were also Indian, and he's like, oh, maybe she gets it. So let's just, what's the worst? I'll just call her up, and we can all sit there. I wish I had done it sooner, and so on. But it's okay. It's just the part. That's the hurdles I had to go through to get to what was already obvious, but I missed the obvious in the beginning.
So
it was you
got
us over the edge.
Yeah.
Got me past the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure working on this book.
Well, the process was stressless. Maybe I was somewhat impatient at times, but you were patient with me, and the interactions is what I've enjoyed, because ultimately we can sit there and criticize each other. Raju, you need to fix this book, and Shoma, you need to change that. Doesn't matter, because ultimately it is a give and take, and we all collectively learn from the process, right? So I just felt like I felt no stress talking to you. Like I always had a listening ear from you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Just for people who are still sitting on the fence about writing a book, or what would you like to say to them, people who've started and stopped midway? Because I know there's lots of people, even people who've been in my sessions, who have started with lots of enthusiasm, and then somewhere along the way they lost the spirit to continue, or it's a hard game. It's hard. I admit it all the time. But what would you say to these people who are sitting on the fence, wondering whether we should or shouldn't write a book? We know we want to. We have a story, but is it going to be too hard?
Well, who am I to say? Because I've been sitting on the fence for 12 years, not being able to get this other book out. So, okay. So I've been there, and I get it, because it is hard. If it was right, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? But when you say you declare you want to be an author, or you want to be a writer, you have options. You can just sit with somebody to tell them the story, and then let them ghostwrite it. You'll pay through the nose for that, and they cannot be inside your mind, but they'll do the best they can. But if you really truly believe you're a writer, then write. If you think you just want to be an author, maybe there are shouldn't say shortcuts. There are other ways to deal with it, because you have wisdom, you have something to share with the world. Just find a way to get it there. So I'm saying there are two different approaches. If you're an author, you want to be an author rather, and you don't want to be a writer, there are other ways to do this. But you do have something to offer, and you are sure about that, then try to be an author and let somebody else write for you. Because ultimately what stops us is the actual process of writing. And that is hard. If you're not a good writer, or just not a writer, then there's nothing to write. But if you feel there's a book inside of you, there are other ways to get the book out. So work with consultants, coaches, find somebody that can help you get it or extract out of you. So I think, so my other book the memoir is already in script writing stage for a movie, but now they're stuck. They're saying, we need to see the book, because this way there'll be funding for it. Like you could actually say, I have written this script based on a book, and it has more credibility, right? And you're adapting a screenplay or whatever. So again, for those sitting on the fence, if you're a writer, just get yourself started with 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes a day. Put a timer. Give yourself a prompt. There are hundreds and thousands of prompts. You can Google, say, writing prompt. You just write. Don't worry in the moment about what it is that you're writing about. Of course, you have an idea about what you're writing about. So if the subject of the book is your topic is you want to, somebody to learn about how to do stitching or knitting, well, then, do it. You have a unique way of saying that. So say it. And there are other ways to do it. You can dictate the book. You can, there are apps out there. You can just simply dictate that, transcribe the words to you. And then when you have all these words, send it to Shona and her team, and they'll fix it for you.
Oh, thank you for the plug. Yes, there are so many ways to now.
But you've helped me with that. So my new book, I already have 30,000 more words than I did, when I started the process just 2 months ago. So there's stuff being dictated and transcribed all the time. I have no idea what it looks like, because it's just a lot of randomness around it. But it's about me. It's the memoir, right? So that much I know. I'm the spine. I'm the thread across. Now, of course, there'll be structural changes to it, and then we'll figure out what the book looks like. I have no clue.
Absolutely.
And it's
not
okay.
as hard as it sounds. Like, it's easy. We need the story first, and we're not writing today in Jane Austen or Mark Twain's time, where it was laborious and everything was described in huge details. So the sunset took 5 pages to describe. That's not today. People's attention spans are short, and like you said, if an author or if a person has a story, dictate it. You've got your phone, you've got 100 apps. Dictate it, transcribe it, get an editor, and they'll do the rest for you. So last question. I know we said we'd go for 15-20 minutes, and we're close to the hour. Where to from here? What, especially, I know you're writing a memoir, but I'm talking more about bold, conscious leadership, because a book is the first step to get your word out there. But really, it's about your mission to help people. So what is your plan with bold, conscious leadership and getting people to understand this, to work with you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is from my perspective, it was a movement that began 2.5 years ago. So the movement and missions are always bigger than ourselves. So the idea here is that we all can say we light a candle in somebody's heart and it kindles, right? It's about awakening the consciousness that we need to be more awake, particularly in today's world. But what I'm saying is nothing new. It's been said for ages and by sages. So it's important more than ever today to connect with your hearts, because there's a big difference between letting your thoughts and your mind drive you. That's the monkey mind that drives you. And 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, as we say in the book, are simply railroading you from your mission. So our mission is to really awaken greater consciousness. And when you start slightly becoming more awake to who we really are as a spirit in these bodies, then it's important to listen to this heart, and then allow the mind, the brain's the best part of the body, which organizes and follows the heart. That's the reversal that's happened over these generations. Let the heart lead, brain will follow, and then it's important to take action based on that inspiration that you've got, because this is something you want to do uniquely, you, to fulfill your desires, right? And we also say in the book, the wealthiest place on this planet is the graveyard, the cemetery, because everybody dies with their gifts. They never get to share, and that's sad. Whatever it may be, right? If my mother had unique gifts of cooking, thankfully I was there to absorb it and share it. But I'm not known as a cook. I mean, but I'm keeping it going and letting my children and others know what these recipes are, so they carry on some part of it, right? Now that's just a simpler example, but there are people who have such great things they wanted to do, but they, right on their deathbed, what do we think about, right? The regrets. We never talk about all the bold steps we took. it's all the regrets we had, the things we never did. So even though I started late in life to do this, but it's important that we be bold enough and find the courage to just do the damn thing, because you're not going to do it now. When are you going to do it? That's why the tsunami for me was a big catalyst. And I go, and it's the meaning you gave to the tsunami. Like, there are so many people, 500,000 people died in that tsunami. Even our friends, I know that a lot of them were, for them it's a passing event. They survived and they were happy. We survived, we're happy too. But we gave it a meaning. That's the turning point for me. It's important to recognize what's important in the moment. And so I never let go, or when I forget, I catch on to the tsunami experience, because that was the turning point. There were many others, but that was one that I go, just know what's important. It's your life that's ticking away. Live it fully.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, can I ask if our viewers or anyone really wants to work with you to find their own selves, and what is it that you offer? And also, what is it you'll be offering our viewers who are looking at this? So, we will be putting up links and to Raju's website and anything else that you give us. But tell us, when people want to work with you, whether it's group coaching or one-on-one, what are they looking at?
So they got to go through the process. We do a needs assessment as to where they're at, a snapshot of where they're at. So that's on the website, boldconsciousleadership.com. So people can also go through what's offered, the types of program, and it's kind of similar to what the book tells you what it is. It doesn't go through the detail, but the bold conscious leadership in the program, we describe what the program is and who it's for. I don't advertise the one-on-one coaching, but that's for individuals who rather work with me directly. So that's another option. But the first step is always book a free call with me. Everywhere it says schedule a call or book an appointment. It's the 30 minutes. I work with you, hopefully facilitate a breakthrough right there for you to see what you could be in for if you were to work with us in a group or another setting. I can, for those of your readers, I can send you, I have a 30-page downloadable PDF that is actually not as heavy as the book. So it's kind of has a little workbook style. It's like you're talking to a kindergartner. You have blank pages to write down answers to your questions. It's a nice, very, very pretty and thoughtful workbook that you can work with and carry it around if you want. You don't have to use it with the book, but you can use it on your own. It's just something to start reflecting. So it's like a journal, but so it's called Why Be Bold? 5 tips on how to be more bold in your life. The 5 tips are heavy, but they come towards the end. It's all nicely laid out. So you can send me, I can send you the link for where that is. Is that okay? Is that how it works?
Yes, absolutely. We'll put the link in the descriptions below, and wherever this is published, whether it's on YouTube or on my website or any other social media, you'll get all the links to Raju's courses, the book itself. It's available on Amazon and other platforms on your Kindle and other readers, Kobo, Apple iBooks, and all of that. If they want a signed copy from you, how do they get that? Like, do they pay for postage and you send them the book along with that, or how do you?
So that's one of the nightmares I went through in selling books, or rather sending books overseas. It's just prohibitive. The mail cost is actually more than the cost of the book. So that's my new discovery. Like, oh my God, it's more than the cost of the book to mail it to anywhere outside the United States, even to Canada, even to England. So unfortunately,
it's
right now not an option, but we can figure out an option.
Well, if our viewers are willing to pay for postage,
sure, of course,
then that's fine. Of course, then you can.
Fine.
Yeah.
Of course, I am.
Thank you so much. It's been
Well, thank you for
wonderful
having me.
speaking to you.
This has been fun. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the next book, and probably 11 more books from the 11 more chapters that are coming on, that are in the book.
Well,
Each
you've
one of
inspired me,
which.
but also I know you always told me we need more examples. We need more examples. Yes, I got so many examples, but this book was getting delayed. The publishing was
Yes,
getting delayed. So we'll certainly at
but
least a few books out of this
yeah,
are coming.
absolutely. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Raju, for
Thanks for
being.
having me. Thank you. Thank you,
Um,
Shoma.
and yeah, we'll catch up again.